Everybody, thanks for watching. And just a quick update. Guide to God is almost sold out. So if you want to pre-order that book, it's almost gone for pre-order. So make sure you get it. It'll probably be done today after this video, as well as the Self-Inflicted Religious Deception, Volume 2. So if you guys want to grab that before they sell out, make sure you get them because they're going to go quickly. Put out updates for everybody who's still waiting for books or tracking numbers. As I said in the email, you guys will get it. I appreciate your patience and support. If you order the book, don't stress, don't worry. You will get it. You will receive the email as soon as it ships. So I appreciate the support and patience. Also, these books release, the pre-orders are already half off. So people who already got the pre-order, you got it half off already. When they release again, they will be at full price. So that's why I'm telling you guys, make sure you grab it. Right now for pre-order, only the pre-orders will be signed books. There won't be no signed books after the pre-order. So get it. It's going to sell out just like the last one did, and it's almost sold out. So make sure you guys grab it. The link is in the description, if you want to get the book. Now, I want to get into this video because, before we get into the video, talk about some quick stuff. So you guys been paying attention, hopefully, to what's happening and what Putin has been talking about. This is the most important thing you need to really be looking at, is what's happening with this whole gas thing, because they're going to use it. And I'm going to talk about this in the next DVD, in the next video. Not going to get into too much here, but they're going to use this. And you have to look at what they're telling you could lead to war. What can happen, the whole chemical attacks. And one of the things they're going to have to do is to get support for this, because, at this day and age, we are not trying to do, any type of war. Nobody wants to fight in any wars. So, Putin announced Thursday, I think it was, that, they are not going to be accepting payment for crude oil and, dollars or euros. They're going to switch over to rubles. Now, it's mismatch and, all kinds of crazy stories about this, because he told a couple countries that they could still continue to pay in euros and dollars. But it was this announcement. So we don't know exactly what's going on. But this is big, because if this happens, and supposedly they're giving people a week, countries a week, to, put together this type of plan to where they'll be able to pay in rubles or gold. And it's big, because now sanctions won't matter. A lot of people don't realize that Russia is the second largest producer of crude oil, next to Saudi Arabia. So if they can get, gold and their own money to be paid in, for crude oil, then it's cool. I mean, they already made over 120 billion, 2019, I think it was, in sales. So they're going to be fine as far as the economy and bringing in money. And this is a big step for them to do that, because it makes people having to depend on them as far as, anything that's going to happen with us. You got to pick the poison. You can be allies with America, or, you can keep on getting what you need from Russia. And it's kind of thinning out, allies and who we can count on. We know that Russia just sold a bunch of oil to India at a discount, and they are having a lot of people interested in, what's happening with this oil thing. So you got to remember and go back to Trump administration, when he basically blocked them from building a pipeline from Germany to Russia, which, that's a strategic move. And when Biden came in, and he basically rescinded that and allowed them to build this pipeline. So now, if it comes down to it, the EU can get the oil from Russia, which we really don't want them to do that. And we don't want them having to come across, let's say, NATO countries to bring oil. So the pipeline would make sense, since, it's a whole conflict of interest with Russia. You got to remember the last time something like this happened, where we had Saddam basically said we only taking gold dinars for oil, invasion. We invaded Iraq, we bombed them. And I was in the military at that point. So it's crazy when you look at what's happening, and it's always a repeat situation. They always follow the same type of MO. And there's a lot of, planetary activity coming up. So, it's probably going to coincide with what's coming. But I don't want people by no means to think this is just letting up or it's over. It's coming. Something that's happening. You can see it, just as I said before with the whole virus thing, which, by the way, they're already reporting that, record low numbers in hospital visits. Corona is dropping and so on and so forth. And we're going to segue into something else, and that's how it goes, just as I told you guys. So pay attention. And get a lot of questions from people that's in the military, a lot of friends, a lot of people worried what's going to happen, what's coming. Yeah, I mean, we'll get into it in the video. I don't want to say too much here, but you can kind of sort of see what could possibly lead to, any coming issues and the questions that's being put out there. And, as you can see, they're starting to, bring Israel into this fold. We're going to get into all this. There's a lot going on. So a lot of people was distracted by the Oscars and all that. And, stage situations, whatever you want to call it, whatever you choose to believe what happened there. But it's a lot more stuff going on, and expect prices to go up. We're going to have a little break because you have an election coming up. And a lot of these people that's being elected to Congress, they play on both sides, and they playing their part, and they're trying to act like they want to, do something. But yeah, it's going to be chill until after this. And once people get in there, we'll see what happens. But, expect prices to keep rising. And the more it rise, the more people are going to say, we need to do something about this. Understand? So, any way they can get us into it. It's always a way or reason to get us into war. And this might be one of the reasons. So we can't look past that. We got to understand what's on the table and how this can affect us. And, for people who, you don't take the bus, or you don't really use too much gas or what have you, or you have a Tesla, smart people, it's not really a big deal, but it's going to become a big deal because it's not just for, fossil fuels, or let's just say for gas, that people use, crude oil for. It's a lot of different things, a lot of stuff that we use it for. And it's one of the things, one of the reasons why people have been calling for an end to fossil fuels and a crude oil. And I think we're going to get there at some point, because it just don't make sense when we already have proven technology that, we can have hydrogen cars and cars that run on water. So water, electricity, what have you, natural resources. So, the production of crude oil to gas and everything like that. I mean, it's a process. It hurts supposedly hurts nature and so on and so forth. We got to worry about a whole bunch of stuff, oil spills and so on and so forth. To do away with all of that, a lot of people would definitely want to, but you can see how it's being used to control the situations that we see war-wise. So a lot of stuff has happened because of it. A lot of wars have sprung up because of it, and another one is possible. And it's slowly, as you can see, coming away from the issue with Ukraine, and it's going to really, it's going to be a big issue with, with oil. And if Putin does this, and you have to look at, Saudis, and the Saudis being where they are, you have a competitor, and having a competitor with this crude oil thing. I mean, Russia, number 2, and crude oil productions. They can basically do what they want, which is going to force Saudi Arabia to adjust prices or change, or, choose sides. And, everybody really, when you pay attention, Russia kind of leading this thing. Like they know what they're doing. So look at Saudi Arabia and what they've been talking about, as far as they've been talking about this for years, by the way, as far as working with Russia. And, if Russia just decides to come out and say, hey, we're going to discount oil just to cut the legs off of America. And we know they're going to run to the Saudis to get oil. So we're going to undercut them. And if you come work with us, we can do this, so on and so forth. And who knows what that's going to cost. It's going to be a huge problem. A lot of people are going to get involved. And it's a weird situation when you look at it as far as, allies. So you could have a situation where people be neutral, or people have to choose sides, and we don't know what's going to happen. So it's a lot to this, but we'll get into it. So, thank you guys for your patience and support. And as I said, got you guys on these books. You will get it. Don't stress. Don't worry. It's coming. And let's get into this video. I speak a lot about Egypt and what happened. and where things seem to have began. And clear as day, we see everything changes after the fall of Egypt. You have to understand that we don't get biblical religion and all that until Egypt falls. There's no way that they can prove 100% that you had Hebrews and Judaism established during the time the Egyptians ruled Israel. It's just not going to fit. So when you understand conquest and what happened and the fall of the Egyptian empire at the hands of the Persians, where you had the ancient Egyptians and the Greeks living together side by side, and the Egyptians teaching not just the Greeks, but everybody, culture and science and everything else, math and what have you. And eventually they would stab us in the back. And this would be because the Greeks gave the Persians the keys to the kingdom, you might as well say, and allowed the Egyptians to be conquered. But it's deeper stuff to that as we get into with the videos, because it's almost as if when you dig deeper, the Egyptians allowed this to happen or knew it would happen, the higher ups, I would say, because the pharaohs and the people in the mystery schools, they changed their entire way that they were buried and the funerary process, which was, a big deal to them for a long time. So for them to change it and to prepare themselves as if they wasn't coming back here, it's a big deal. And it gets into what I talked about in the agenda and that whole thing. Again, it's stuff you got to understand in order for it to make sense. But I got off of the subject because I got to understand a lot of people's minds are not ready to accept that. If you followed it and understood what I said, then it's up to you to accept it or not. If you start looking at the world and the way things are, and what my overall point was in that video, it makes sense, because you got to ask yourself again, why would black folks do this? Why would they sell us out? Seemingly sell us out. Why would they go inside with these white folks throughout history? We're not just talking about Jay-Z and Oprah and all these other black celebrities. We're talking about throughout history. Because in order for Egypt to fall, they had to help. Black Egyptians had to help. And a lot of people ain't going to want to accept that, but it's the only way when you understand that civilization and how shit worked. Somebody had to help them. And you dig deeper, a lot of people say, oh, what's the Moors? They stabbed us in the back and they had ancient knowledge, which we'll get into that in this video a little bit, what happened with the Moors. And the Moors were kings, which we'll get into that as well. But stuff fits, and you got to look at it. And it's like, okay, well, damn, why throughout history we see this, not just us, the Asians, which we'll get into, and everybody else seemingly bow down to this. But there's a deeper understanding that's really going to be hard for people to grasp and understand. The reason why I'm where I'm at in life is because I understand it and I move forward. I get what's going on and I understand it. And there's a lot of rules to it, and it's deep and it's scary, and a lot of people are not ready for it. So I sort of backed off of that track. I'll pick up on it after I put out more videos. And as I feel like more people are looking at everything so they can understand my overall point of what I was talking about in the agenda. And, for people to understand that and soul purpose and everything else, because, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know everything. I'm, all knowing and all this and that, and everything I'm saying is 1000% true. But I give you guys enough proof in my videos for you to make up your own mind and do your own research. And I make what I say make sense. So on that note, we're going to continue here, but you got to look at history and understand why it's whitewashed. It's the big deal. But the fact that it was, and all of that, information, what it entails, because it's a lot of stuff. But we know you had the Greek Empire before it's black people. We know about the Etruscans. We know about the city of Carthage. We know about the Carthaginians, you want to call them. But we know about these civilizations being black and ruled by black people and what took place. So again, a lot of people don't want to believe the Ice Age story about black people going up to the north and getting caught in the Ice Age and losing their melanin and coming back down or what have you. Something happened. because you have these Aryans coming in, and then you have a lot of researchers from back during that time talking about these people coming down from the north, the Aryans, and mixing in. We know with the Hyksos this happened. The Hyksos, when they ruled Egypt, they ruled as mixed people. We know that it was talk about this, about the Canaanites mixing in, and the Phoenicians mixing in, and that it wasn't a big deal back then because nobody could fathom what was taking place, or what it was all about. It's people trying to live and survive. So the Egyptians had the knowledge, they was teaching, but they couldn't fathom the agenda that was on the table for the Europeans, from the Europeans. And it gets deeper because a lot of people are not going to see what took place because history, again, whitewash. But fast forward, and we know the Etruscans and what's known as Rome were black, and that history is out there. And then you have these major civilizations in North Africa with the Egyptians, and then you go to Europe and you have the Etruscans, and you have Carthage, and you have the Greeks and the Romans, so to speak. So if you are, and then we got to go over to Indus Valley and look at the black people there in India, so on and so forth. So you got to step back and look at the plan. You got to look at everything, and it's amazing. And it's still, again, fits in what I'm trying to tell y'all, because how the fuck did they do this? How? And one of the biggest things is, as I talked about in the video, is with the Chinese. These people have, their entire history is war against each other. Their entire history is war. We're talking about going back to freaking 23rd century, 2000, 2300, BCE. They're fighting each other, and so many dynasties slaughtering each other. Why? What's taking place? What's going on? So you got to look at this, and then, white man walks in and, hi, we're going to mix in with you. Let's do this. And then they just accept it. Why? So those are deeper things to think about, to ponder. But we have these civilizations, and they're looking at it, and they have to conquer all this, and they have to first infiltrate it all so they can gain conquest. So this is where they started. Come down in this valley and begin this way, and they spread east and west. Plain and simple. They spread east and west. But the Indus Valley is where we look to where they started to come down. In the Indus Valley first, and then start to move over towards Egypt. But the Indus Valley is where they're kind of sort of pinpointed at first. But we know, of course, they was in Greece, and we know they was in, Rome. But they really started to lay their roots more where we start to see them with the Indus Valley, and start building conquests and spreading over there. Because remember, they will become the Persians. So those areas are not talked about much because it's primitive stuff that's going on. Of course, we're going to talk more about Greece and Rome because a lot more stuff happened there. So with the Etruscans, I'm going to read here. Just a real quick pick. It's talking about here. The Etruscan people populated a large region of what is now Tuscany and Lombardy in Italy. But they're probably not what you picture in your head when you think of Italians. Strong evidence suggests that the Etruscans were dark-skinned people who traveled from Africa to settle parts of Europe. Not only did the Etruscans' settlement predate ancient Rome and Greek civilizations, it greatly influenced the culture of Rome. The contributions of black culture on the Roman Empire have sadly been whitewashed by Eurocentric historians. Now, for those of you who understand who Sheikh Anta Diop is, he already put out a lot of information on how Aryans spread over and mixed in with the Chinese, and that's how the Chinese got light, and the whole migration pattern of the Africans out of Ethiopia and where we went, and so on and so forth. And that this mixing in with white people is how pale skin came about, and so-called yellow skin, and it's common sense, and it's common sense of what happened and what took place. But it's not just in Asia, and then not just in Indus Valley, because we look at everywhere, and we gotta realize, and it's one of the things I talked about on YouTube. You gotta remember, we were everywhere. This was completely black folks everywhere. They systematically went out and mixed in with every people on the planet. This was their thing. This is what they did, and they mixed in with the Asians. mixed in with the Indians. They mixed in with North Africa. And they went over, went down to South America. They mixed in with the Australians. We follow this migration pattern of the Eskimos coming. I talked about this before. It was a ice bridge that basically was too big to cross, that separated Canada and the United States. It was an ice bridge there. And once it melted, you was able to just finally, come straight over from Alaska to Canada and to the United States. And that's what the migration pattern shows. And then the migration pattern also shows them going over through Asia into Australia, but then down from Australia over into South America. The way you look at it on the map, you can go from Australia to Africa, and then from Africa, into the lower part of South America. And they would basically migrate up through South America into Mexico and the Americas and what have you. And it's just like early civilization, the way they look at it. But, still civilizations that was built there. So we can't look at all that and skip, Peru, Hawaii. You can't skip the Philippines, because when you go back and look at all these places, dark-skinned people, as recently as the 17, 1800s, dark skin. Same thing you're going to see in ancient Egypt. We'll get into this. I talked about this on YouTube, by the way.